Who doesn't like money? I know I do. And today I've got one of my favorite people to talk to about money with us here on the show. We have Dan Tesmer. Onpath Financial has been at it for the last 2 decades, and Dan has been invested in this industry for almost 3, which means that together we're getting a little bit older. And on top of all of that greatness, Dan manages our money. So thank you so much for being here, Dan. You are a wealth of knowledge as an expert in the financial planning industry, and I'm so thrilled to introduce you to our viewers.
This is great. Thank you for having me.
I'm going to dive in, and the reason I really wanted you here, because buying homes and home ownership, whether it's for themselves as a residence or as an investment, is such a part of somebody's bigger financial picture.
It's a big asset, right? Yeah.
I think a lot of people just don't always get that. They kind of say, like, I'm renting, I want to buy a house, but they don't always think that there is a bigger picture of what we're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I really enjoy best about you is that you look at the big picture and you are, like me, a strategy guy. Mm-hmm. How do we take all of these pieces and put them together?
That's the key, right?
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you about, because it's such a big deal, especially with our people, I'd say our entry level, our first time buyers, is saving up money, budgeting for a home purchase, right? That's a lot of money when we talk about it, whether you're looking at 5%, 10%, 20% down with the prices and the values in the city. We're talking about a big chunk of change. What are great ideas, and how do you work with your clients to set them up for success in home purchases?
You know, it's a great question, and it's a big goal. You know, it is. It really is these days. It's, you know, sometimes.
Wait, let me interrupt for 1 second.
Yeah.
Is it one of the largest purchases that your clients will make in their lives?
Absolutely.
For the most part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think you need to take some time with that. So I think when you look at strategies and pitfalls, you know, first and foremost, I think it's really getting used to living, financially speaking, on the other side of that purchase, right? So there's some things that we naturally think about. As you're showing places, what would the mortgage be? Property taxes, HOA, but there's home ownership can be sneaky, right? There's a lot of expenses that,
surprise!
Right? Yeah, there's things that you have to do. There's things that you have to do, right? And I think that's one of the things that people discount. So, more than anything, I think you do this well, and when we're brought in early, is really helping them think through and get used to the other side of that purchase in a very proactive way.
So when somebody is getting ready to purchase, what do you think some of the most common pitfalls are that derail their path to purchasing and saving up that down payment?
More than anything, I think it's really making sure that the good financial stance that they go into it with occurs on the other side. Because on the other side for a lot of these folks is a lot of unknown. Maybe it's new territory. So just making sure, when we talk down payment, right? Just making sure, for instance, that, they're not spending down every last penny of their liquidity. Then all of a sudden they get on the other side and they've got that big purchase out of the way, and now they feel themselves strapped again. So can't say enough how thinking about life on the other side financially is so important, even early on.
No, that's a great point. And I so often talk about being house poor.
Sure.
You absolutely do not want to be house poor. I will talk so many of my clients out of pushing themselves to get that extra criteria box checked, because at the end of the day, it's not worth it. It doesn't matter if you have the most beautiful home that you're so proud of, but you can't furnish it and you can't invite your friends over and you can't buy that bottle of wine, and you're going to live in a constant state of stress. So I love that fact. I love the fact that you're coming back to, what I'm hearing is it's about having a plan and a strategy and probably a pretty good budget in there too.
It helps, right?
Right. And don't overspend.
Yes.
Don't overspend.
Yes.
Okay. So here's a big thing, right? And I sit down, I get the people sometimes before they're kind of figuring out the financial aspect of things. And they're all trying to say, okay, what are the best investments? I've got this money. I've been doing right in my finances, right? I've been investing in SEP accounts. I've been investing in IRAs. I've been putting money into the markets. How do I go about tapping into that money? And from my understanding, there really needs to be a lot of thought process on which accounts you're looking at and why.
Yeah, for that purchase, for that down payment as an example. Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at, there's the different types of money that's out there. we all have long-term goals. Retirement would be one of them. And a lot of those vehicles are set up to be geared towards, 60 years and older before you can tap into them. So I think even early on from a savings standpoint, when you're saving for some of those near-term goals like a home purchase, you really should make sure that you're saving in accounts that are available now. And when you think about, okay, it's time to buy, how much do I have to put down? How much do I want to put down? Again, I think you need to look at that through the lens of other things that you have going on in out in the next 3 to 5 years. So what assets to liquidate, stuff of that nature. It's not only here and now, but also maybe having somebody beside you that can help you look a little longer, just making sure that what we are selling, how we are structuring things like a mortgage is going to fit not only today, but 5, 10, 15 years into the future.
Totally. And you know me well enough now that if I know a little bit about something, I need to know a lot. So for me, it's about having somebody that I really trust to be like, well, I don't want to know too much about it because then it'll cause my brain to spin. And real estate is where I want my brain to spin.
Absolutely.
But I even remember that there are times when you may say, hey, we're going to sell this at a loss because we need this to support something else. Which I think the common consumer would say, wait, what do you want me to lose money to put myself in a better position? That doesn't make any sense at all. But of course, you're looking at the bigger picture of how to get us to where we want to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's, taxes can be a common thread around everything, right? So,
yes.
Sometimes a loss from a tax standpoint is not a bad thing. I think the other thing too is, we deal, sometimes a home purchase is, it could be a multi-generational event too, right? Oftentimes we see, parents, other family members coming to the table and helping out with a lot of those things. And I think that your questions of, hey, what do we give? What do we sell? I think there's some strategies there as well to be mindful of, maybe for those parents who want to help out with that down payment. When we think about helping out, we think about gifts. Oftentimes we think of cash, right? Just going to write them a check. Well, talking about what assets to sell, there's oftentimes looking at, if you're a parent, looking at your portfolio, thinking about helping out a son or a daughter with a down payment, you could think about, I would encourage you to think about maybe those appreciated assets, those stocks that have run up in value, and maybe gifting those instead of cash. Anytime we gift an asset like that, we also gift the tax basis. So the parents don't have to incur that to sell. They gift the tax basis. And maybe in theory, son or daughter is in a lower tax bracket. Well, we can let them pay the tax.
You're deferring the tax.
Yeah,
into the lower bracket.
let them pay the tax, and then maybe they can use their cash to reinvest and reset that cost basis. So again, I think around every corner, the commonality is there's a lot of thought and planning that proactively should go into these big decisions, right?
Well, and one of my favorite things that we did, especially at the end of the year, and as you said, gifting is a big part of what we do. There's a lot of parents and family members that want to help their kin get ahead in this. And obviously it's a lot of money, but especially at the end of the year, I'm going to forget what the exact number was. It $16,000 last year that you could gift without a penalty, or was it 17?
I want to say 17, and I think
right.
In 24 it's 18.
You're right.
Yep.
So $17,000 gift could be given to somebody tax-free. And at the end of the year, we had a lot of parents that were doing that. And then what they were doing is, as soon as we got to January 1, they were giving $18,000. Yeah. All of a sudden, we got to a $35,000 gift, tax-free. That's a 10% down payment on a $350,000 condo.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful, isn't it? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So just good strategies and good things to note. Anything else that you would really consider or think is good advice for people to think about when they're thinking about how to pull together these down payment purchases?
Yeah, I think, more than anything, I think it's just, even that people that are programmed to save. I think how you are saving early on and making sure that you're diversified in that respect. Again, I think that first job, maybe it's a 401k, there's a company match, you absolutely should do that. But if there's anything in my career that I've seen, even for people that have that savings habit down, it's maybe just not being mindful of how they are saving. In other words, there is such a thing of deferring too much money to longer term goals. And then all of a sudden some other important priorities like home purchases come up, and they have a lot of money saved, but it's restrictive. It's in vehicles.
Not in a
it's in vehicles
position
where maybe there's some options, but maybe they're not ideal options to pull that money out. So planning's everything.
Right.
Proactive planning is everything.
I'm admittedly guilty of that. I like to never touch the money that goes over to your way. I just want to leave it there, and hopefully someday I'll retire. Even though those that know me best, I think they're going to say I probably will never retire.
I might be one of those. You love what you do too much.
I love what I do,
Yeah.
and just kind of finalizing that thought process, because this is a lot of times I do get people that come in, especially in this day and age, which I think more and more people have cash.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's trying to value, should I finance a property or should I pay cash? What's some thought process on that?
Yeah, we get this question all the time. It's probably
Especially as rates went up.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is the one piece of analysis that we do more than ever before, and I think there's a couple of things. One is oftentimes, and especially with the younger ages, maybe you have a long-term trajectory from a work standpoint. I think the calculation, the math that is completely valid is looking at what is that mortgage cost? What is the interest rate? Are there any tax savings to that, such as being able to itemize mortgage interest that may bring the true cost of that down? So maybe if the headline rate is 6 or 6.5, maybe that's not the true cost of the money. And then the thought process there, and the analysis is, do I feel like I can earn more outside? Do I have do I have the potential? So I think that is an exercise that is very, very valid. I do want to say though that when you start getting closer to the desire to be financially independent, and I don't talk, we used to talk about it in terms of retirement. I don't really talk about in terms of retirement anymore because
we retire differently.
Yeah, the notion of retirement is completely different, right? But as we're approaching that phase of the desire to be financially independent, it's really about cash flow at that point in time. So there's sometimes even in a low rate environment where you can maybe go grab a mortgage at that started with a 3 or a 4. Remember those days? Yeah. Oftentimes, the right answer is to either pay cash for a property or at the very least to have a plan that is consistent with when you want to be financially independent. Because again, the part of the key of that realm is trying to lower what you need. And if the mortgage is not there, you just need to generate less income. So it's not a one size fits all, but I think, but those are a couple of the discernments that we help clients through as they're thinking about, okay, if I have the flexibility of how much to put down or how to orient this mortgage, again, planning, proactive, being able to guide them through that decision, it's important. It's a big one.
So true. And obviously, what's behind this curtain.